Well, hey, friends, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is where we take a fresh look, a new look, a look again at the world around us. We take different angles on it, different takes on it, but it's all driven by you. And today, our topic is about excommunication. Big word, big subject, but we have an expert here with us. So we want to hear about what your thoughts about excommunication in the Catholic Church is, what you know about it, what you don't know about it, maybe some of the things that frighten you about the word, anything. But we need you to call in at 1-800-585-9396. Did I mention that I'm Debbie Georgiani and I'm along here with Jerry Usher? Hi, Jerry. How you doing today?
Doing well, Debbie. Thanks for opening the show. And you're right, it is a big and really a very important topic, but very misunderstood sometimes. A lot of confusion around excommunication. So, dear listeners, if you have any questions, maybe you're hearing the word for the first time and you just want to know, hey, what is it? What is it about? Give us a call, 1-800-585-9396. If you have heard about it before, maybe you're wondering, how does someone get excommunicated? Is it being kicked out of the church? Maybe you're wondering about that, or can somebody receive the sacraments if they have been excommunicated? Maybe you're wondering why the church doesn't excommunicate more people. Or here, does the church actually, is it an active move on the part of the church, or can we, by our own actions, bring excommunication upon ourselves? So, very, very significant topic, and we hope to hear from you at 1-800-585-9396. We are happy to have back with us for the second time in a couple weeks Dr. Carol Houghton. She is the Chancellor for the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She is on the tribunal, the defender of the bond, and she has taught canon law at Mount St. Mary's Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Carol, it's good to have you back. Thanks for making time again. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. Carol, let me ask you this question. So let's start at Excommunication 101. Can you give us a brief understanding, a foundational, a way that we can really grasp it? Because so many of us, we look at it and it's very distant to us.
Okay. Excommunication in itself is a penalty in the church for a very serious violation of the church's law. It's a type of penalty. There are two basic types of penalties in the church. It's a type of penalty that's called a censure, and a censure is a medicinal penalty. The word itself, censure, means a reprimand. And censures are intended to heal or cure the offender. They're meant for the good of the offender and for their reconciliation. They're meant to bring the person back into the full life of the community. To be excommunicated means to be outside of the communion of the church. To be separated, in a sense, from the full community of the church because of a very serious action. And there are basically three types of these medicinal penalties or censures, and the most serious of the three is excommunication. The other type of penalty, just to put it in perspective, is called an expiatory penalty, as opposed to a censure. And an expiatory penalty means to make satisfaction for or to atone for. And those types of penalties don't have as their primary purpose the reconciliation of the offender, like censures do. Those types of penalties are intended to restore the harm that was done in the community, to repair the scandal that was caused, and to deter others from the same sort of behavior. So they can be imposed, for example, for a definite time or even permanently, like dismissal from the clerical state. But censures, including excommunication, can't be imposed for a definite time because as soon as the person repents of their behavior, is truly sorry for what they did, and seeks forgiveness and reconciliation with the church, those censures have to be lifted because they've achieved their purpose.
Carol, what are some actions that would bring excommunication upon a person?
Well, there are two ways, really, that someone can incur this excommunication. Some are called automatic penalties or automatic excommunications, and that can be misleading. That term can be somewhat misleading because it really means that once the action or the offense is committed, once the person commits the offense, he or she incurs the penalty by the law itself. No one, like a bishop, has to declare it or say it's imposed on the person. The law itself gives it. Now, we have to remember that only Catholics who are subject to Catholic Church law can receive this penalty, and they must have the full use of reason, and they have to be an adult to receive this type of penalty. They have to be over age 18. The other type of penalty is called declared. It's a declared or imposed penalty where usually a bishop would actually go through some sort of process. It could be a judicial process or an administrative process, where by decree, then the bishop would declare this person under a penalty. But that would be more rare, I would think, especially among laypersons. But if we talk about the automatic penalties, there are 8 automatic excommunications listed in the Code of Canon Law.
So, Carol, let me ask you this question because it seems so vague to me, the different levels of penalties or when you refer to it as censures. And I'm not trying to be flippant in any way. So let's say somebody commits they're an adult, they intended to do it. It was scandalous. They completely violated church law. And then, so they excommunicated themselves, if you will. And what happens? Do they receive like a letter in the mail or something that says you're out of the Catholic Church? I mean, what happens? No,
I understand. No, they have to, for an automatic penalty, if that's what we're talking about, an automatic excommunication. Since that's the topic for today, let's limit it to excommunications. So for an automatic excommunication, a person who's Catholic fully intends to violate this law, and they have to know that there is a penalty attached to the violation of this law. I have to also know that. And the violation of this law is gravely imputable to this person. That means I'm morally responsible for this action, either by reason of deliberate intent, as you said, Debbie, I deliberately intend to do this, or by culpable negligence. I am morally responsible for this action, for this offense. So if those things are in place, then I can receive, the law says that I am excommunicated. The law gives me the penalty. Nobody has to send me a letter in the mail or a decree. Then that's the automatic excommunication. The law itself gives the penalty.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Our guest is Dr. Carol Houghton. She is a canon lawyer, and we are going to go to your calls in just a few minutes here about excommunication. Our number is 1-800-585-9396. We realize that this is a topic that is not water cooler conversation usually. It's we don't sit around as a family and discuss it at the dinner table. but it is something we have to at least know a little bit about as Catholic Christians, because it really helps to preserve the unity of the church, that we all live according to church teaching and God's laws and so forth. And those of course, can be violated, and there can be scandal created and the such. So we want to talk about it here with your takes. 1-800-585-9396. And Carol, you mentioned, I believe you said there are 8 things that bring an automatic excommunication, if I remember you saying that correctly. Are you able to list those, or at least a couple of them, just so our listeners have an idea of what it is that we're talking about?
Sure. There are, and 6 of the 8 are reserved to the Holy See for their remission. They're so serious. We have to keep in mind that these are all sinful actions. Okay, we're talking about sins. But sometimes the Church says sinful actions are so gravely sinful that they rise to the level of a crime. And these are crimes. And the crimes have penalties attached to them. And the penalty here is the automatic excommunication. Okay? So the 6 that are reserved to the Holy See, because they're so gravely offensive, are first, the desecration of the Holy Eucharist. Secondly, physical violence toward the Roman pontiff. Third, absolution by a priest of a partner in a sexual sin. Fourth, consecrating a bishop without a pontifical mandate to do so. And that would be the excommunication of both the one who consecrates the bishop and he who was consecrated a bishop. Number 5, the direct violation by the confessor of the seal of confession. And number 6, both the one who attempts to confer sacred ordination on a woman and she who attempts to receive sacred ordination. Those 6 would be reserved to the Holy See. Now, we're in the year of mercy, and so it's important to note that from December 8th of last year until November 20th of this year, during this holy year of mercy, some confessors have now been granted special faculties by the Holy Father to remit 4 of these reserved crimes and their attached penalties. And these special confessors are called missionaries of mercy. And they will be available in every diocese, some priests who have these special faculties during this Jubilee year. And as I understand it, they are able to remit the crimes of desecration of the Eucharist, physical violence toward the Roman pontiff, the absolution by a priest of a partner in a sexual sin, and direct violation by the confessor of the seal of confession. So those, during this Jubilee year, some confessors have the faculty to remit those.
So, Carol, real quickly before we hit the pause button and take a quick break, and we'll come right back to our phone calls, the ones that aren't reserved to the Holy See, can you list those? Because those
Sure.
obviously, yeah, okay.
Sure. Those 2 that are not reserved to the Holy See, but which normally pertain to the local ordinary to remit, but many bishops have granted the faculty to their priests, would be apostasy, heresy, and schism, and the procurement of a completed and successful abortion. And again, for the year of mercy, I believe that all confessors may remit the penalty that's attached to the procurement of a successful abortion.
Okay. Wow. So we'll have to really just grasp this. This is a lot. And thank you so much for sharing it all with us, because it lays the foundation for us to really understand this very big topic of excommunication in the Catholic Church. And dear listeners, we're going to hit that pause button, and we come back. We're going to go right to Alice, who is first up, going to be coming in with her comment and her experience on take two. But you hear that music. We want you to stay with us. We're talking about excommunication. It's a big word, but it's time for us to tackle it. So stay with us on Take Two. We'll be right back.
And welcome to a special EWTN bookmark brief. I'm here with Dr. Monica Miller, talking to her about the authority of women in the Catholic Church, published by Emmaus Road. You can look for that interview in the future. But, Doctor, give us a quick 1-minute brief on what your book's about.
Well, this book is, Doug, is an exploration, ultimately, really, of the covenant of redemption, as it is differentiated between the authority of men and the authority of women in the Church. And since there's so much controversy about, well, what is the meaning? I mean, maybe we got the male thing settled, but what's the meaning of feminine authority in relationship to Christ, the Redeemer? And so I explore, in particular, for example, that the church is feminine. And does that mean then that we're talking about just a poeticism, just a symbolic way of talking, or is there something actually essential there, in which case women exemplify and express the true nature of the church in relationship to Christ, the bridegroom? So we want to explore those ideas and help women understand their role and their mission in the church in relationship to Christ.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. Look for the complete interview. This has been an EWTN bookmark brief.
Hello, this is Bishop Robert Baker from the Diocese of Birmingham in Alabama.
I'm Peggy Normandin, but you can call me Catholic.
Hello, friends. This is Father Wade Menezes of the Fathers of Mercy. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
God bless you. Thanks for being with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We are honored to have with us Dr. Carol Houghton of the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She is the Chancellor of that diocese and sits on the tribunal as well. It works on marriage and annulment cases. She is the defender of the bond and has taught canon law at the seminary level. We're talking today about excommunication with your involvement at 1-800-585-9396. As Debbie said, we promise we're going right to Alice, and the other we'll get to you in just a minute. Alice, listening to EWTN Radio in Louisiana. Alice, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and Dr. Carol Houghton. How are you, Alice?
Hi, Jerry. Hi, Debbie. It's Alice. How you doing?
Great.
Good, Alice. How are you?
Pretty good. I have two examples. I'm not sure about the second one, but the first example would be in the 50s. We had Leander Perez down here in Louisiana who was excommunicated because he was a segregationist. And Archbishop Brummel excommunicated him. So I understand on his deathbed the excommunication was lifted. The second one, I think, was Bishop Lefebvre, because he either ordained priests or he ordained other bishops, and without the okay of the Holy See. Not sure about the second one, but the first one I know happened because I was only about 7 or 8 years old when it happened. But we've heard about it for a long time in Louisiana. But those are the two examples that I could give. Maybe you all can talk about it or whatever.
Carol, I'm sure you're familiar with the Lefebvre excommunication, but the first one that Alice mentioned, did you catch that one, Carol?
Barely. I could barely hear her.
What was it again, Alice? Please, just real quickly, the name of the
excommunication of Leander Perez in Louisiana because he would not let the schools in Plaquemine Parish be disintegrated. During the segregationist period. He was a segregationist. Would not let the schools be whatever it's called. Desegregation.
Okay. That one I'm not familiar with that at all, and it may have been under our former code of canon law, which our current code was promulgated in 1983, so it may have happened before that date. The second example that you gave, I am familiar with, a bishop who consecrates another bishop without a pontifical mandate, and that penalty was reserved to the Holy See, and so that's an example of that excommunication, the one that you gave there.
So, Carol, I wanted to ask this. It looks like Alice has dropped off. So, Alice, I hope you're still listening. I wonder what kind of, I wish Alice was still on. I wonder what kind of impact that had on the community. Obviously, Alice said that the first one she remembers when she was 7 years old. I mean, it does kind of leave, and maybe that's why the excommunication word seems so huge, is that it is kind of out there. Like, oh my goodness, could that really happen to me? And it does. How does that? Have they done any kind of studies, if you will, of what it does to the community when somebody in the community is excommunicated? Does it leave this lasting impact on people?
Yeah, I don't know about studies that have been done, and how it impacts the larger community. I know that currently our Code of Canon Law says that a person can only be punished if they violate one of the laws that has a penalty attached to it. We cannot be punished with a penalty, kind of willy-nilly or at random. Mm-hmm. We can only be punished according to the law of the church. There are many laws in the church, but there are few that have a penalty attached to it. And so the penal law of the church is used only in the most serious of cases. The application of penalties for a crime is a last resort. It's not the first resort. We use pastoral exhortation. We use admonition. We use fraternal correction. We use rebukes. We even warn persons that their behavior is wrong and it needs to change before there's any application of a penalty. And so a penalty is always, the last resort. We read even in the early church, in Matthew's Gospel, in chapter 18, we read an example of this. We read there that Jesus says, "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector."
Yeah,
and so we see there written in Matthew's Gospel a kind of early process of how you deal with someone who acts wrongly in the church, who offends. How do you deal with that? And Jesus there outlines this process, step by step. And in the end, after 2 or 3 attempts to deal with this person, if he still refuses to listen even to the church, then let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector.
I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Thank you so much for citing that passage, Carol, because I know, given human nature, and I've been guilty of this, and I'm sure many of us who are listening, we all we see things, especially culturally and in politicians and people around us, and we just say, we just want to be like James and John. Lord, should we call down fire from heaven to consume them? When the church is always leads with mercy, and I'm glad you pointed that out, especially in this year of mercy. Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie and Dr. Carol Houghton talking about excommunication. We're going to come back with more of your questions. Stay with us.
The
The EWTN Book of the Month for June is Mother Angelica's Answers, Not Promises. Mother's straightforward solutions to life's puzzling problems are written in this practical, humorous, and common sense collection that will help you with your struggles and draw you closer to God. It's available through the EWTN Religious Catalog web store, EWTNRC.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
We teach because the Scripture teaches it in Hebrews 7, 8, and 9 that Jesus died once and for all. And therefore, we believe that Jesus himself has that one saving act of his death on the cross and his glorious resurrection from the dead at the center of each sacrament. It's not that we kill Christ again and again. It's rather that infinite act of Jesus dying on the cross and rising from the dead is made present by him and his Holy Spirit at the Mass and the other sacraments, and that it is Christ who is baptizing. That's why I don't say, may Jesus baptize you. I don't say that. I say, I baptize you. I'm speaking for Jesus. I don't say, this is his body, or this is your body. No, I say, this is my body. I speak for Jesus. It's not about us. It's about focusing on Jesus.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Why did millions of people tune in each week to listen to Mother Angelica on her live television program? Because she had the answers. Whatever the question, problem, or heartbreaking sorrow, guided by the Holy Spirit and directed by the teachings of the Church, Mother Angelica had straightforward solutions to life's puzzling problems. Mother Angelica's Answers, Not Promises, a profoundly practical, humorous, and common sense collection, available now at EWTNRC.com.
Thanks for being with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. We have Dr. Carol Houghton with us, Chancellor of the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and she is able and willing to answer your calls, and you've been waiting so patiently. We're going to move right along to John in Granbury, Texas. John, you're listening to EWTN Radio. Welcome to Take Two. Hi, John.
Oh, hey, I'm on.
You are on.
You are, John. Go for it.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Howdy.
I'm actually a 48-year-old cradle Catholic, married to a convert, and we have 4 children. I have a concern, and basically I want you guys to comment on it. We try to do the very best we can at attending Mass, teaching our children, the catechism, Scripture, everything that goes along with being Catholic Christian. And it's very tough when we see politicians, and I'm not going to throw all the names out there, we all know, and maybe even a few Supreme Court justices that blatantly disregard Catholic teachings, yet we still occasionally see them attending Mass, receiving communion, and it's really hard to teach our children in the ways of the faith when we have such a contradiction in terms of how we're supposed to react. We teach our kids that unless we have a valid reason for missing Mass, that we have to go to confession before we can receive the Eucharist. And to me, everything's important. And we know the fundamentals out there, like abortion, homosexual marriage, and the like, are so very important and so vital in today's society to be strong, yet they see politicians who are, clearly Catholic, and everyone knows it, yet they're not obeying church teaching. And it doesn't seem like the bishops or the local parish priests are willing to do anything about it. And I'd like to hear your comment. Anyone?
Carol?
Okay. Well, first of all, John, let me commend you on what you're doing as a Catholic father and husband for your family. You're certainly doing the right things, and it sounds like you're teaching your children in all the right ways. So I want to commend you on that. Secondly, with regard to your question regarding the politicians and the justices, Catholic politicians and justices. I want to go back to something that I said before, that penalties are always a last resort. It's not what we start with. It's kind of what we end with. And excommunication is never the first step that we take. And we have to look to ourselves first, to education and to teaching and trying to convince others, especially legislators and politicians and justices, of the truth of Catholic teaching on this issue, on the life issue. That's one thing that I think we have to do better, perhaps. Secondly, I think we have to look at our own society in which we live, which is certainly the Church lives in a society and a culture of death that does not support Catholic teaching on this issue, and which sometimes society and our culture exercises a great influence in public life. And we're like a salmon that's swimming upstream sometimes. We have a hard row here to tow, and we do our best. But our bishops do not have an easy task. It's not always black and white. And I'll put a little plug in here for our bishops that we need to pray for them every day. And I think we also have to remember that excommunication is a penalty, and we must read the words of the canons very carefully, and we have to interpret those words strictly. The law says we interpret hateful things strictly, not broadly. And they're to be interpreted strictly so that we don't apply them to anyone who's in any way connected to the actual commission of the crime itself that we're talking about. On the other hand, the Church wants us to apply favors and benefits broadly, so that favors are actually applied as generously as possible. But when it comes to a penalty, we have to read it very strictly or narrowly, so that we don't start applying it too broadly, so that anyone who assists the offender in any way is punished with the same penalty. And so we have to remember that excommunication is a penalty, strictly interpreted, for those who procure a completed abortion. That is, for those who take a life. And those who assist the offender in any way may be punished with the same penalty only if their assistance, only if without their assistance the crime could not have been committed. That's how the law reads. And so how very difficult it is from situation to situation to distinguish between the one who may have committed a crime and those who may have acted sinfully in the same situation without having committed a crime. And there are many people and many institutions who may share some responsibility in this matter. No doubt about that. But the question is, did they actually commit a crime? And
John,
I think that's what bishops are trying to sort out, situation by situation. And we have to pray for them, because they have a very difficult situation.
Indeed, we do have to pray for them. And John, thank you. I echo what Dr. Carol Houghton said, John. God bless you for what you're doing in raising your kids in the right way. And again, we just need to remember that it really is God who judges these things, and we need to pray. We need to be praying for ourselves first and foremost, that our efforts to make a difference and turn these things around in our culture would be fruitful, and then for those whom God has raised up into leadership positions in government and other arenas of our society. So, John, thank you very much from Texas. We got full phone lines here, so we're just going to keep plugging along here. Mary is next, listening to EWTN Radio in New Hampshire. Hello, Mary. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and Dr. Carol Houghton.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a question about abortion. Let's say someone had an abortion and then confessed it years ago to a priest, was absolved, and now we find out that you had to go to a certain priest. By the way, this happened on a Divine Mercy Sunday. I don't know if that bears any importance at all. But now we find out that you had to go to, there were only certain priests who are allowed to absolve this sin. So now, where does a person stand who was absolved years ago, and now it's in question, and the priest also is now living in sin in a same-sex situation? So now, what does a person do? Where is that person, and what does that person do?
Okay. First of all, Mary, if the sin of abortion was absolved, it's absolved.
Oh.
And the confessor has the duty to determine within confession whether what he's hearing is the sin of abortion or whether he's also hearing confessed a crime. And so the first thing he would determine is, did this person actually also, apart from a sin of abortion, did this person also commit the crime and therefore have the penalty? The person may or may not have committed the crime, because it's difficult to get to receive the automatic excommunication. All sorts of things have to be in place. The person would have to know that this was so serious that that it is a crime, and would also have to know that there's a penalty attached to it. The person would have to be at least 18 years of age, would have to have full freedom and knowledge, and certainly would have to be a Catholic and so on, could not be forced into this in any way, and so on. So all the conditions that the confessor would look for would be there. If any of those conditions were not there, then there's no crime. There's the sin, but not the crime. And so if he granted absolution to this person, then it's absolved.
Mary, the
person would not have to look back and say, now what do I do? It's absolved. It's done. And some bishops, as I said, granted the faculty to their priests. So all priests had it. In the Diocese of Harrisburg, for example, for many bishops now, our bishops granted the faculty to the priests so that all the priests in the Diocese of Harrisburg could remit this penalty. Mm-hmm. Even if they heard the crime as well as the sin, they could remit it. And so it's remitted within the sacrament of confession.
I'm so glad, Dr. Carol, that Mary brought this up, because I think this could pertain to a lot of people's experiences. And I want to just follow up on one thing. So you're saying that when that person went into the confessional and confessed that sin is absolved. My question is if somebody still feels uneasy, would you recommend that they go to their priest and maybe talk this over just to make sure? Because we always want people to feel we don't want people to carry that kind of guilt and those feelings with them through a lifetime, wondering if it was or if it wasn't.
Right. Right. Yes, I agree with you. Peace of conscience is certainly important. And if a person still feels uneasy about that, I would say yes, go to a priest that you're comfortable with and just talk it over.
Okay.
Mary, is that satisfactory for you?
It is. Thank you very much. I was a little. I think a lot of us have been a little confused over this issue about this only certain priests, but that's been clarified. So thank you very much, Dr. Houghton, and thank you, Jerry and Debbie.
You're welcome,
Thank you,
Mary.
Mary.
So I'm so glad Mary called in, and that is going to put a lot of minds, and as you said, Dr. Houghton, consciences at peace as well.
Sure. Let me just clarify this in general. We're dealing with, when we talk about these crimes, we're talking about two layers of. We're talking about a layer of sin, and on top of that, a possible crime. Okay? These are all sins. They're sinful actions. Some of these may have also risen to the level of a crime, and if so, then there's a penalty attached. But in order for it to become a crime with a penalty attached, all of these conditions have to be in place. You know, the person has to know that it's a very serious action and and that it's a crime in the church. They also have to know there's a penalty attached to this action. If I do this, I'll be excommunicated. And they also have to know they have to have full freedom to act. They can't be forced into this. They also, have to be of a certain age. I have to be an adult. I can't be 16 or 17 when this happens, or 15. I have to be at least 18 years of age. And the church presumes at age 18 I'm an adult and I can form full intention. I also have to be fully responsible for my act. Otherwise, we're talking about a layer of sin. And that a confessor can absolve.
Right. I think those are important.
That's why a priest will sometimes ask a question or two in confession to determine, am I hearing the level of sin confessed, or am I also hearing a crime confessed?
Indeed. Yeah, I think one of the keys there would be, you mentioned freedom, and it's not just a matter of not being, in sort of bound up or confined somewhere, but interior freedom as well, and that's often certainly missing in this case of abortion in particular, because a young girl is just not in a very good place to make a truly free decision. So, all right, again, Mary, thank you for your call. Anita, hang on. We're going to go to Deacon Aaron first, and then we'll get to you, Anita. Deacon Aaron is listening to EWTN Radio on Redeemer Radio in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hi, Deacon Aaron. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing great.
Well.
I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Houghton. I was in her last class at Mount St. Mary's, and I just wanted to thank her for all the work she does for the church.
Hey, thank you very much, Deacon. How are you?
I'm great. I've got a lot to work on, but it really does help. And a lot of the stuff that happens like this, it does come up. It does come up in the pastoral world, and it's very good to get them all clarified. So I just appreciate everything.
Thank you so much. Give my best to Bishop Rhodes.
Oh yeah, I'll tell him you said hello.
Okay, thanks.
Wow. So you were just ordained a deacon?
Yes. I was on May 21st already. Wow. Time flies.
Wow,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. The Holy Spirit works. Believe me, it's real.
Okay, Deacon Aaron, we're going to ask you a quick question. We only got just a few seconds, but we know why we love Dr. Carol Houghton. Why did you love her in class?
Well, I will never ever forget. See, when I first went into canon law, I thought it was a lot of rules and a lot of punishments. Especially we're talking about excommunication. That's a good example. But the first day, she said the purpose of canon law is for the salvation of souls. And it's so true. Jesus wants our hearts. He wants our souls. And canon law is a means to help with that. It's a way to bring us closer to Christ.
Amen.
And I'll never forget that.
Wow. That is awesome. This was a wonderful call. Thank you so much, Deacon, for taking the time and calling in and blessing our day, and I'm sure Dr. Carroll's day as well. Jerry?
Now, I won't embarrass Deacon Aaron Carroll by asking how good a student he was, what kind of grades he got.
That's confidential information, right?
Yeah, that's it's under the seal.
That is.
Well, Deacon Aaron, you got less than a year till priesthood, so please be assured of the prayers of the Take Two with Jerry and Debbie family, and will you please remember us in your prayers?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Even maybe a mass in the future.
Please do. We could use it. Thank you.
Yes, we'll jump on that one. Thank you so much. God bless you. Okay.
Bless you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move right along to Anita in Oceanport, New Jersey, listening to EWTN Radio on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Anita. You're going to close out the show. What do you have on this topic?
Well, Dr. Houghton and Jerry and Debbie, thank you very much for taking my call.
Sure.
I come across a number of people that have been getting married in what I believe is called the American National Catholic Church, which I guess you're familiar with, I'm sure. It is a priest and the bishop and whoever else that is established spun off from the Roman Catholic Church. But unfortunately, I believe they're preying on people that are Roman Catholic by baptism and other sacraments, and that really don't know their religion. And I was wondering how, obviously, I'm thinking they're excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. Is that true, or?
You know, I'm really not familiar with the American National Catholic Church, but I can't imagine that they would be affiliated with the Catholic Church. They must be some kind of an offshoot.
I looked it up on the computer because, unfortunately, a very close relative of mine went there because they wanted to get married in a church, and they think that this is a Catholic church. And I know they're not under the Pope, but it was a Roman Catholic bishop, I believe, in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. And they have their hierarchy, and they're ordaining women, and they're doing all the things that.
Yeah.
But how do I communicate without alienating family members that, I don't know that they're excommunicated. That's my point.
Well, they are not affiliated with us. They are not affiliated with the Catholic Church, and therefore, for someone to marry in that church would be an invalid marriage. Because the priest has to have proper jurisdiction and has to be able to validly witness a marriage, and their priests would not be approved by us without, a proper dispensation and all. And so they would have to come through their own parish priest, for marriage.
Anita, did you say you had a family member who was married by one of the ministers, I guess, or whatever you call them?
They call themselves priests, and they go. It's really kind of almost funny if it wasn't so serious. That if they can't find a Roman Catholic priest, I know who they're calling. I would call him, I'm sorry, but a hoodlum priest almost. And I think I would like to be able to communicate to them, is this an excommunication situation or no?
I'm not familiar with them, so I really don't know. But from what you're telling me, if they ordain women and so on, they're not affiliated with the Catholic Church. And so, Catholics cannot simply go there for marriage. That would not be considered a valid marriage.
And Anita, I would encourage you maybe to give a call to EWTN. You'll find them at EWTN.com on the internet and just say, I've got a question about this, and maybe they have researched this. They have a whole theology department, and there's also Catholic Answers at Catholic.com as well. So, Anita, thank you. I know this is a very important issue on your heart, and we're gonna certainly pray and ask the entire Take Two with Jerry and Debbie family to pray for you as well.
Yes, we sure will. And thank you for that call, Anita. Dr. Carol, I love calling you Dr. Carol. I love that. Anyway, okay, cool. One last thing I just wanted to add. Should we, there shouldn't be any type of burden or fear upon us to really be worried about the general Catholic, who's trying to live the best Catholic faithful life they can possibly live, of this fear of excommunication. This is not, again, as said, this is something to help us attain holiness. This is not something to hurt us. So I just wanted you to I guess, reiterate that again.
Excommunication, you really have to work at being excommunicated.
Okay.
And remember, excommunication is meant for the reform of the offender. It's meant to achieve their reconciliation. It's medicinal. It's meant to reach out and bring the person back. It's meant for their good.
Mm-hmm. Right. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And we just thank you again for being with us on Take Two. I know our listeners really appreciated it. Thanks for making the time for us. You did, again, an amazing job, and we hope you come back for future shows as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate your time very much. Dr. Carol Houghton, Chancellor for the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That office is in very good hands with her, and she is, of course, a canon lawyer as well. And Debbie and I want to thank you. We got one more day to go this week, Debbie, and we're going to shift gears to a topic that is really on your heart tomorrow.
It is. It's about respectful dress. If a certain attire that is out there for all of us to buy at different retail stores, it seems like it's cool, but is it disrespectful to the Catholic Church? And we want to talk about that, what that means for us as Catholic Christians. Are we held to a higher standard of how we dress and how we portray the Catholic faith out there in the world? But Jerry, tomorrow is your birthday, so we also want to make sure we take a little bit of time out and just celebrate with you on your special day. So, because you're going to be with us on your birthday. I don't know why you didn't take off, but we're glad you're with us.
Well, thank you, Debbie. You let the secret out, so it's no longer secret. But yeah, and looking forward to the show tomorrow and every single day. And just want to also issue a challenge to you, our great listeners. Go to take2show.com. And it's a little bit of a search. I want you to hunt for something. There's a big, round Jerry and Debbie logo. It's bright yellow. You can't miss it. You'll find it at take2show.com. Go there right now. Look for that big, bright, round, yellow Jerry and Debbie logo. That'll take you to our website where you can post prayer intentions, get information on us to come out and speak in your area, buy a Holy Land rosary, and more. So look that at take2show.com. Click on the Jerry and Debbie logo.
And we want you to stay tuned in all day long on EWTN Radio. But Jerry and I will see you tomorrow. So until then, have a beautiful and blessed day.